Chapter 16 of Mice and Them. Journal entry. Time and date. Unknown. Unknown location. I was in a field of vibrant tulips, Kate's favorite flower. It was a bright, sunny day, and the first thought that filled my mind was whether or not this was heaven. Had I died in my sleep on that alien ship? It was so real, so visceral. The smell of earth and blossoming life was intense, in some ways more powerful than anything I had experienced in reality. The sunshine embraced me like the warmth of a blanket, and there was not a cloud to be found in the sky. I was looking down at my feet, which were bare. That's odd, I thought, and wiggled my toes. Looking up, I was overcome with joy to see Kate standing about 30 feet from me, smiling brightly. She was wearing a long white dress that captured ambient strokes of color from the vivid flowers around her. She was also holding something that I couldn't make out. "Kate!" I called out, but no sound came with it. It was completely still and silent. "Kate?" I tried again. Nothing. I began walking towards her and realized that I could hear my footfalls, but only that. At first my strides came easy, but the closer I got to Kate, the more difficult they became. Looking down, I noticed the once solid ground had turned into a thick black mucilage of soil.
Kate, are you okay? What's happening?
I tried to shout, but only heard the attempt in my head. I tried to run, but that seemed to only make the pace thicken with each step. As I got closer, I could see that Kate was holding a bright red tulip. She was trying to utter something to me, but her voice cast no sound either. Her mouth undulated up and down and then started over, as if she were repeating the same phrase to me. Finally, with exhaustive efforts, I got to her. She stood tall and as beautiful as ever. She was perfect. Her eyes were like two bright blue fireballs burning with passion and meaning. I was mesmerized. She continued mouthing words to me, but still no sound came.
I can't hear you. What are you trying to say?
I mouthed back. She continued talking, then left my gaze to look down at the tulip. I felt a tinge of nausea and a sense of impending doom. Something was not right. The flower she held began to wilt, and the sky with it. Clouds grew thick and heavy, and soon the tulip and the sky were black and dead. The once peaceful and joyful setting was replaced with a theater of fear and hopelessness. A rumbling came from deep within the earth, and all the flowers in the field shot up straight into the sky, leaving a vacant black and murky earth. Kate dropped the flower she was holding and began digging into her wrist with her hand, which now appeared claw-like. She left a large gash in her arm and began bleeding onto the tulip as it lay on the ground. The blood came fast. The scorched ground absorbed the blood and the flower as if it were a last meal to be devoured. Then between her feet, another tulip grew from the same spot. The blackened soil produced a gray tulip. The bulb at the end had not yet exposed its bloom. She knelt down and pulled it from the roots. This flower was larger than the others, and she stood cradling it like a baby. She was smiling at it and rocking it back and forth. This was no tulip. It wasn't even a flower. It was a gray fetus, and what had appeared to be the stem was actually the umbilical cord. Kate held the gray thing up so I could admire it. She grinned, revealing a mouthful of rotting black teeth. A black liquid spilled from the corner of her upturned mouth and saturated her chin and soiled the neckline of her white dress. The fetus looked both human and alien. I stretched myself, in a moment of pure curiosity, to look closer. As I did, it turned its head from Kate's bosom to face me. Staring into me were two large black eyes cased in a thin protective sheath. They had a wet sheen to them, like those of a baby seal, except its gaze held a knowing, dark intelligence. I drew back and lost my balance. I tried to stymie the fall, but my feet had become cemented into the earth, and I hit the ground hard. Kate leaned over towards me, blinked once, and revealed her own set of pooling black eyes. Just then, a beam of light enveloped me from the sky. The source was a massive, amorphous UFO which stretched miles in all directions. I could not see the ends of it. It carried no distinct shape, but had great spires thrusting in and out. It seemed alive. It hovered silently amidst the dark clouds, not entirely visible. Suddenly, as if ascending out of water, I heard a pop in my head. The silence was replaced with an ominous, loud thrumming, which could be both heard and felt. Vibrations waved throughout my body. I looked at Kate. Now I could hear what she had been trying to tell me.
Wake up, Nate! Wake up! They're coming! Wake up!
Who, Kate? Who? Who's coming for me?
Kate leaned in even closer and tilted her head.
Mitutu alka. Mitutu napalu. Mitutu. Mitutu kitra!
A white, brilliant triangle began glowing from just underneath the skin on her forehead, which now appeared translucent and gray.
Matutu Elka, Matutu Naparu, Matutu Akutravu, Inki Elka.
She repeated this several times. All at once, the beam of light vanished, Kate and the alien fetus with it. I ascended the dense, bottomless sleep I was in and snapped back into reality. Back into my reality. I was still in a sitting position with my head and knees tucked in. I felt a tingling throughout my body
And smelled the stench of them.
I slowly looked over my shoulder and saw a glowing triangle hanging in the blackness. Then I saw those pooling eyes. Even in the thickness of this black, those eyes were darker still, so dark that they seemed to shine, even against the pitch of the backdrop. It was the leader again, Big Ugly. Somehow he'd entered our room, or cell, whatever it was. He may have been there the whole time for all I knew.
Either way, he made himself known.
He was flanked by several other small creatures, only discernible by the height of shine in their black gaze. They seemed to appear out of nowhere. Something zapped me, and pain surged through my back first, and then throughout the rest of my body. I tried to move, to escape, but couldn't. I heard Jeff screaming in a
Uniquely alarming manner.
His lack of a tongue created more a wailing of a wounded animal than a human, and it brought a fresh, new type of terror to our situation. And then there was light. The world of darkness that I had come to know of this place was ripped from me, just like everything else that has been taken from me here. The light was not comforting. It was instead cold and severe. Bitter chills populated not only my skin, but my mind. I had almost learned to love the darkness. The darkness was one of the few things that embraced me in this place. The darkness was also the only way I knew Jeff. I trusted Jeff, and in some way that allowed me to trust the blackness. I trusted the predictable sounds the ship made, the tapping of Jeff's hands against my palm, my body's ability to navigate through the muck without the fear that sight would no doubt yield. But mostly, I trusted my mind more when I was in complete darkness. Seeing in this realm was actually a handicap because the eyes lie, as Jeff had put it. These creatures could make you see whatever they wanted. Indeed, I was grateful for not having to witness all the terrible things my eyes would have surely taken in, if not for the ever-present darkness. Now, for the first time, I was able to see Jeff. He was naked just as I was, and the brilliant light washed over him and revealed our reality. He was being restrained by two smaller aliens who held his arms out like a cross. His gaze, if he could see, would have been looking directly at me. I could see where his eyes were once seated. It wasn't only his eyes and tongue. Jeff had lost a lot more. He had also lost one ear, several digits from his hand, and the worst thing a man can lose, other than his mind. He looked like a man that had been through the Holocaust. His bones were not just visible, but in some places, they actually appeared to protrude through his skin as if purposefully pulled out of his body. I closed my eyes, not because of the sheer gruesomeness of it. Well, partly, I suppose, but more because I felt I owed it to Jeff. We had spent all this time together in the dark, and shame remains obscured in the recesses of darkness. The light erased the dark from our thoughts and our situation and illuminated the actuality of our despair. Big Ugly was standing just to my left, his head ablaze now with the adorned triangle.
I closed my eyes once again, hoping they'd remain closed.
I didn't want to see any of this. Big Ugly, however, had other plans. He touched my head and instantly my eyes opened and stayed that way. He grabbed my neck and squeezed what little resistance I had out of me, forcing my head to look upon my withered friend. They wanted me to witness this. The bastards.
Who? You.
Jeff belted out louder and louder.
You.
Jeff was yelling, "It's you! It's you!" over and over. Jeff seemed to think I was some kind of prophecy come to save the world from these alien invaders. I didn't think so. I didn't believe in a god, and I certainly considered that if there was a god, he wouldn't pick a non-believer like me, much less a simple programmer from some small town in Washington. But Jeff believed it, and my disbelief didn't seem to matter to him. He never wavered from his faith in God or his belief in me.
Jeff, stay quiet. Just
The rest of what I wanted to say was cut short by the grip fastening hard against my vocal cords. At any moment, I knew I would be witnessing something terrible, but I didn't allow my thoughts to catch a stride. I also realized that any terrifying thoughts I may have could be used against me. Rumination of any kind in this realm was like free streaming media, and they could easily subscribe to my channel via telepathy. The anger within me was carbonating into a pressure I couldn't long hold. I managed to steal a moment of attention from the leader. I mustered all the strength I could and turned in his grasp to look into those hateful jet black eyes and said, "Go to hell," though I wasn't certain we weren't already there. A look of satisfaction ripened on my hardened face, but my action did not come without a direct and instant consequence. I felt a stinging sensation on the side of my head that had enough intensity to stand me up on the balls of my feet. Tears came fast from the pain. What the hell just happened? My vision was blurred from the sting of tears in my eyes, and I couldn't quite make out what Big Ugly was dangling in front of me. It looked like a bloody mushroom. A blistering, hot flash tore at the left side of my face. The pain intensified with the knowledge that this was no mushroom plucked from a stew. This was actually my ear dangling in front of my face. A part of my body forcefully stripped of me. Dismemberment was now on the menu. Soon I would face the same horrifying hospitality that Jeff had endured. One of the smaller creatures stepped toward Jeff, brandishing something metallic, sharp, and menacing. It had the look of something made for a very specific reason: to kill. The other two creatures holding Jeff raised his arms higher on either side and looked ahead at Big Ugly. Maybe for instruction, maybe for praise, maybe for a lot of things. But Jeff seemed to know what was coming, even without sight. Jeff bowed his head, knowing what was about to become of him. He began praying loud and in such an authoritative voice it scared even me a little, but not as much as it scared them. As he prayed, he got angrier and louder still.
Here, where, I hear her. Jesus, Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
by now, I was well versed enough in Jeff's tongueless vernacular that I understood exactly what he was saying.
He continued praying louder and louder, and the aliens seemed to get more and more anxious.
Take this cup from me, Father.
He continued to yell. They began to look around as if some unseen force had entered into the room with us. The craft began to shake as the aliens looked around confused.
Not Big Ugly, though. I heard him say something in my mind to the others.
In a frightened tone.
Elohim, Elohim.
The next moment I felt a radiant heat accompanied by a white light that got brighter and brighter. Everything was already covered with the aliens' harsh white light, but this light was different and overtook the intensity of the first light. The brilliance of it was incomparable to anything I'd ever witnessed or felt. The grip around my neck was released and I gasped for air. Then these alien creatures, these frightening evil beings, did something I never expected them to do. They ran. Fast. It was like turning on the light in a cockroach-infested motel. They all scurried away and tried to hide. Comically, or at least it would have been under much different circumstances, they bounced off walls and fell over each other to get out. The one holding my neck, Big Ugly, he stayed the longest, staring into my eyes with hate and anger. Eventually, though, he ran too. He telecasted a look at me before running, a look that said,
I'll be back for you.
The triangle on its head was no longer just illuminated, it was burning and on fire. I heard him squealing in pain as he fled. The brilliance of the light was impossible to stare into, but equally impossible to look away from. Like a compass near a powerful magnet, I felt my emotions spinning out of control. And then, as sudden as the light had come, it graduated back, leaving the other hard light in its place. Jeff! Jeff, are you all right? I tried to yell, but choked and coughed instead. I grabbed at my throat like a man who just escaped the gallows. I rubbed it hard as if this would somehow fix it. "Jeff!" I yelled to the best of my ability. "Where are you?" No answer came back. Jeff was gone. The evil beings had fled. They were afraid of something. Was it God? Ignoring the possibility made me feel ignorant and perhaps arrogant. Jeff had mentioned that praying would often transport the abductee right back into their beds, back to safety. Perhaps, and I hoped, Jeff was back with his family, back home, if it was all true. It occurred to me that Jeff could probably have prayed for relief at any time, but he waited for me. He knew I would come, just as God had told him, and so he volunteered his life in pieces, just to give me his message. These were questions too big for me right now. I had to find a way to escape. The creatures had left in a rush, but they'd be back to collect their prize. I had a feeling that the next time they saw me, the torture they inflicted would produce only death. The light of the ship was still bright and harsh. I felt something wet running down the side of my face and remembered that my ear had been torn off.
Ugh, my ear.
I yelled, startling myself. I reached up, patted, and then looked at my hand. It was coated in the dark red oil of my blood. My eyes caught focus of the background of my cell, and chills hit me. The walls, which I had previously thought appeared like the aurora borealis, had a much more sinister reason for their appearance. Under the luminous skin of the walls, I could see spirits weaving in and out, their faces scowled and hopeless in their perpetual prison. I grabbed myself in a hug as if proving myself human, or maybe trying to keep my own soul from escaping my body and becoming a part of the ship. As frightening as this revelation was, more powerful was my empathy for these lost souls. These souls, they belonged to a body once, to a family. Somehow they ended up here, forgotten and forever vexed. They were now interminably part of this evil craft. Were they powering the ship somehow? I began feeling a sensation that I had come to understand as their presence. They were coming back for me. I knew I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, so I just went for it. I closed my eyes, clasped my hands together, and relied on my memory of Jeff praying to mimic what he had done. I didn't particularly like the idea of kneeling in this disgusting pool of human parts and pieces, but if it helped me garner favor with God, I would not only kneel in it, I'd swim in it.
God, Lord, I know I haven't been a praying man, or even a believing man, and I know I haven't always done the right thing. I'm pleading with you. Please, get me out of here. Please, Lord. If you do, I promise to follow you the rest of my life. Please come into my life, Lord, and save me from this nightmare.
My eyes were compressed so tight that it was painful, my hands gripping tight and pushing on my forehead. And then, nothing. Silence. I couldn't hear anything or feel anything. I instantly doubted, not God necessarily, but myself. After all, why should God help me? I began feeling guilty, ashamed, and maybe a little stupid. Of course, God would not come to rescue me like he had Jeff. Jeff was devout and knew God his whole life. I never cared or even tried to believe. Slowly, I opened one eye. I felt my chest heaving with anxious energy. No God, no angels, no tunnel of light.
But no aliens either.